I'm Richard Lewis, pointforcabbage.org. I am here with one of the surprise elements of ESWC, and it is the South African Panda attack. So, where to start with you? Okay, let's talk about this ESWC. You've really kind of gone under the radar and surprised a few people. I mean, nearly beat Stefano. I took a map from him, I should say. But, you know, good results against top players. So, talk us through the tournament from your perspective.
I'm pretty happy with my results overall. I think I played pretty well. In the group stage, the first game I lost versus Hawk, 0-2. I was kind of disappointed about that. I thought I should have won, but my hands were freezing cold at that time.
A lot of people complaining about that.
It was so cold. And being African, I'm not really used to that at all. And next game was against Demaga. Obviously, Demaga is a more well-known player than me, but I knew I could win if I play well, and I ended up winning 2-1 with some pretty good games. And the next game was against the Japanese player Saok, and I 2-0'd him. My PVT is pretty good. Yeah. Unfortunately, you don't get to play it very often at tournaments, seeing as there's only 1 or 2 Terrans ever, but yeah, so that was quite nice. And then my first game from the bracket was against Hanfi from Alien Invasion. He's a pretty good player, but my builds were good and I won 2-0. Yeah. And then the next game was against Stefano. Took the first map quite easily. I think my build is just good and he didn't respond to the DTs that well. The second game I did an Immortal push and I don't know, I was so far ahead, I killed his third and I was like slaying his whole army. And I think I don't really even know how I lost the game, but I must have made 1 or 2 micro mistakes and he kind of stabilized and the game went on, and because his infestor control is so good, he was able to win the game. So that was
I like the way that we're talking about Stefano and you're going, I don't even know how I lost the game. Like, so I mean,
I was convinced that I was going to win 2-0 because I mean, like the second game was going so well. I was so close to winning, but then just I guess through amazing infestor play, he eked out the win.
Do you think maybe some of these players underestimated you a little bit? I mean, is there ever an element where you think, nah, maybe they were just playing with me and I made them sit up and take notice? Or, I mean, do you think you actually got a fair shake? People didn't underestimate you?
Well, I'm pretty sure they probably all underestimate me, which is a good thing for me. But I mean, at the same time, professional players will take each game, seriously. They won't mess around just because they think the player's worse than them. And I mean, I do play against a lot of these guys on ladder, so they're not completely unfamiliar with me.
Well, when you were at IESF, you didn't perform anywhere near the same level. So I guess the question is, what was kind of different about that tournament? And what have you been doing differently, if anything, since then?
Well, to be honest, my result at IESF wasn't great, but I still felt like I played really well at the tournament. I got kind of an unlucky draw. I had to play Sen in the round of 16, and I narrowly lost 2-1. And it was a really close third game, like 1 or 2 different force fields, and I could have won. And I think that would have been a really big upset to knock out Sen. So my result didn't really reflect how well I was playing. And I mean, since the ISF, I really haven't had much time to practice at all. I've been playing very little actually, because I've had to organize visa stuff, and it was such short notice. They'd invited me like a week before the tournament, so I had to scramble to get everything ready. So I guess that's all there is to say about it.
I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of just being a gamer in South Africa, because I've actually got like a project underway at the moment that we can't really talk too much about, but it's going to involve some South African gamers. I'm really excited about it. It's a little bit different out there culturally, and there is a hardcore kind of gaming element there, but it's, well, look, you can explain it better than me, right? So go ahead and talk about it.
Well, I think in general, people always kind of underestimate how many gamers there actually are in South Africa. I mean, our Warcraft 3 server, we used to have about 10,000 people online on weekends, so I mean, that's not bad at all. We used to have back in the day, we used to have a very big 1.6 community. I used to play every ESWC qualifier we had, every WCG qualifier. So I mean, it's not like the community is non-existent. It's just basically the only problem is the internet. StarCraft 2 is basically the first game where we've ever been able to play on the European server. In Quake Live, in 1.6, and even in Warcraft, it wasn't really possible. But now that the netcode's improving, StarCraft 2 and Dota 2, we can play on the European server, so it actually gives people like me a chance to compete and reach international level. Yeah. So I think in time to come, over the next few years, you'll start seeing, or hopefully you'll start seeing more South African and African gamers competing in the international scene.
Well, let's talk about Johannesburg, which obviously is, you know, your kind of hometown. Again, I mean, so much cultural disparity between groups of people there. So again, talk me about that, because I'm always interested in kind of culture and how it impacts in gaming. If you want to talk a little bit about kind of yourself and how you got into gaming and maybe some friends and that kind of thing.
I think for the majority of people in South Africa, the culture is really no different to the American culture. I would say we're very largely influenced from American and European culture. I mean, I've been playing games since I was very young, since I was like 8 years old, whatever, playing Warcraft 2, Starcraft 1, you know, got into CS at a very young age. And I mean, back in the day, it's kind of weird. South Africa's actually gone a bit backwards. Back in the day, like 2002, we had a lot of really big LANs actually. We had a 1,000-man LAN, and we were having like big LANs 3 times, 4 times a year, which is not bad at all, you know. And everyone used to go, you know, everyone loves to LAN, and we'd go to these big LANs, and there were qualifiers for big tournaments like ESWC, etc. And since then, in the last few years, there's been a decline. I mean, we only have 1 qualifier a year, which is for the ISF. We have only 1 big tournament a year, and so I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but the scene has actually stagnated a bit, and I don't know, I think with the boom in esports and all the money it's being putting into it at the moment, I think maybe the scene will continue to grow. I think a lot of sponsors may be looking to invest in South Africa when they realize there's actually a decent market for gamers, you know. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens in time.
So how does that impact on you? Because I mean, how are you being funded to come to something as allegedly prestigious as ESWC? How does that work out?
I mean, it doesn't really. I paid for everything to come here.
Yeah?
I mean, I have a little bit of financial backing from my team, and obviously I'll use that money to help me. But yeah, I paid for everything. So
was that not? Talk me through the motivations for doing that. Because I mean, that's what some people might call a dumb move, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd get that. The only motivation really would be that I've always wanted to come to ESWC, and so it's kind of been like a dream for me to play on the big stage, you know. And I've taken a year off to play full time, and I want to be a professional gamer. So you can't be a pro if you don't come to tournaments.
Of course.
You have to start somewhere. So, yeah.
Do you think people are gonna maybe give you some offers now that you've come here and shown what you've done? I mean, was that like a big motivating factor in playing so well? You can be honest with me.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a motivating factor for me. To be honest, like the money's not that important for me. Like you hear a lot of pro gamers saying they just in it to make money. Like Stefano, for example, just cares about the money. I mean, obviously you need money to survive. Like I mean, it's been a really expensive trip for me, and I won't be able to do this another time. This is basically the only shot I have. But back to your original question, I hope that maybe I'll get some more offers from this, or you know, the only problem is traveling from South Africa to these events. It's really expensive. The plane ticket is astronomical, and I think that's one of the reasons that I'll have a harder time than a European player finding a nice team, because it's not really worth. Well, up until this point, obviously my results haven't been good enough, but at the same time, it's really expensive for them to sponsor a player like me to come to a lot of events. So,
but think of the exposure in South Africa. I mean, who are the other StarCraft 2 players out there? Do you feel quite lonely?
I mean, there's a couple. We have a small community of StarCraft players, but I'm the only Grandmaster player and the only player that anyone really knows about. So I guess yeah, kind of lonely. But I mean, it's kind of nice to be the
top dog,
the South African hope.
So it must be a bit weird then, because ultimately, while you've had a good result, because you're self-funded and you know it hasn't kind of worked out, you haven't won the big prize, are you actually disappointed then?
Well, I mean, I won't be able to eat next month, so no, I mean, I wasn't really expecting to win the tournament, so I'm not disappointed in that sense. Overall, I'm relatively satisfied. Had I mean, lost to Demago and gone out in the group stage, I would have been pretty pissed off, you know, having paid all this money and then not really even doing anything. But I think I showed some good games, and you know, I was reading through the comments and some people said, oh, he played well. So I mean that's good enough for me.
Do you ever think that, right, we see a lot of these new players kind of like come through for like one tournament, two tournaments. Right, yeah. And I wasn't going to say that, but you put it out there. Is anyone going to be able to level that at you, that you're just some patch player, you've got lucky, and, you know, we're never going to hear from you again?
I mean, I'm sure anyone could say that. Whether it's true or not, I mean, that's up to everyone to decide. I'll have to try to prove them wrong if I get another shot at a tournament. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty hard-working player. I've put a lot of effort into improving this year, despite my really shitty internet connection. And I think I'll continue to put in a lot of effort, and hopefully my results will just get better and better. I mean, up until this point, if you ever look at my results throughout this year, I've just kind of gotten a better result each tournament I've gone to. So, I mean, if I can keep up the hard work, hopefully that trend will continue.
Okay, well, I'll just get a little bit of insight into the tournament as a whole. You played against Stefano and you took a map from him. Do you think he's in a strong enough mode right now to be able to win the tournament? Or do you think maybe 4GG, something like that's going to pip him?
I think he has a pretty good chance to win against Mana, although Mana's obviously a great player. But I mean, it's PVZ. Zerg's pretty favoured in that matchup in general. I'm guessing it'll be Stefano versus 4GG in the final. I don't really know that much about ZVT, to be honest. I think it's about 50-50 between 4G and Stefano.
So, what does the future hold? Obviously, you've got a long-ass plane journey at some point, and you're probably going to enjoy yourself between now and then. Who could blame you? But what does the not-so-immediate future hold for you?
Okay, well, in the immediate future, on Monday, I'll be flying to California, and I'll be staying in the Razor Academy with Mr. Bitter, and I'll be training there for about 3 months. So, I mean, this is actually a pretty big step for me, because up until I feel like I've got to a pretty decent level practicing from my home, but the internet connection really holds me back. I feel like I can't get any further than I have now. So I'm really looking forward to being able to play in America on a stable connection. I'll be practicing, I'm hoping to practice about 10 hours a day, and I'll be streaming my games as well. First time I'll be streaming, so that'll be quite fun. And hopefully I'll be able to play maybe in an MLG or some kind of tournament like that, a lot of online cups as well. So that's kind of my next 3 months plan. Hopefully I'll be able to get to a really good level after all that training, and maybe show some really good results at tournaments afterwards.
Oh, well, look, I imagine if I know anything about the StarCraft 2 community, you're going to have a load of new fans. You must have a Twitter, right? Everyone's going to want to start following that. No, you don't?
No, I don't have a Twitter. Maybe soon. But I do have a Facebook page if you want to follow me there. It's just Facebook/PandaTank.
Yeah. I never let people do plugs, but I just thought for you I'd make an exception. But it's been a real pleasure talking to you. You've had a great tournament. Enjoy yourself in the States. I'm sure you're going to love it. To all the people out there at cadred.org, do stay tuned to the website. We're going to have more interviews with people, perhaps not as amusing or as exciting as Panda Attack, but we'll try. And that's going to be all the coverage from here at ESWC 2012.